Well, hello and welcome to this session on getting started with World of Workflows. In this 10-11 minute webinar, I'm going to show you how to install World of Workflows, how to navigate through the interface, and by the end of this session, you're going to have a real handle on how it works, how to set things up, how to get started, and so you're not stuck with a blank piece of paper. So without much further ado, this is a Windows box. I'm using the Windows Sandbox, starting from scratch, and let's go and have a look at how to install World of Workflows. So you double click on the installer. You can download from our website. That will run, and when that's loaded, that will pop up the fact that we want to set up. It will choose a folder. You can select the terms and conditions, agree, and click install. And for personal edition, that's all there is to it. There's a little bit more for business edition, but this should absolutely get you started. So we'll wait for this to install. It copies a bunch of files into that folder. As per any installation, it starts a single Windows service called World of Workflows, and it puts an icon on your desktop. So there we go, it's just done that. It's going to finish setting up the services, and when it's done, we're going to go and have a look at the product. So let's let it finish doing that. And for this demo, I've done everything in real time, so you can see actually how long all these things take. So that's ready. I'll click on the Finish button. I'm going to double click on World of Workflows. That will launch a browser and access your World of Workflows Personal Edition. And there it is now, showing the dashboard. First time you run it, it will give you this little pop-up. And on the dashboard, you can see the most important things: tasks, types, and views. But everything you're going to want to configure is in admin. First time you run it, we're going to ask you to register. This doesn't lock you in or out. You can install it on different devices, but registering here just records who you are, so we can send you service information if we do an update or anything like that. So just hit the register button. That registers your instance of World of Workflows Personal Edition. Now we're going to dive into admin. Here I've got workflows, types, views, tasks, a whole bunch of things, but I'm going to step you through them. Let's start with types. This is the database in World of Workflows, and I'm going to create a type to hold some leads, because I'm going to create a little lead management application. So I create that type. There it is. Now I've got to give it some columns. So if I click on here, the first column it gives by default is title. You can rename that, but we need a title field. So you put in the column name, and once you've set up the name, you can then put spaces and change the display name and column description. The name itself can't have spaces in it, so it's just a little constraint there. So I'm going to put in first name, I'm going to put in last name, I'll pop in, let's have a look, phone number, for example. We'll put an email address. There we go. Get that all in there. When we've done that, the estimated value of our lead, and here's where we can see the different data types we have for these columns. So I can choose a big integer, an integer, decimal 2 we use for currency. I'll use that here. And we can also do the date it's going to close, and again a different data type. I'm going to choose a date time. So there's my lead object kind of set up and ready to go. So there it is. If I go back to types, click on the lead, I've got no items in there. If I hit plus, I can go and enter a lead into my system. So now we've created a system where I can record leads and have them stored and have them played back to me. So just starting on building solutions here. Nothing incredibly exciting, but I'll put in the details, put in that number. It's a date picker, so I can go and pick the date I think it will close by, let's say today, to be optimistic, and hit save. And that will save that item that's now in the database, which is kind of cool. If I click up there, I've got more of those. I can edit them in kind of a spreadsheet view. And so I can do inline editing. There's a bunch of other features in there. But I don't just want to have a lead showing itself. I want to have a drop down of its status. So to do that, I create another type. In this example, I'm going to call it lead status. If I click in there, I can create a whole bunch of statuses for my lead. You know, whether it's new, whether it's been assigned to somebody, whether it's closed won, whether it's closed lost, whether it's qualified. So this is how you create little drop downs, so you can have various states for things, a status, if you will, for our lead type. So we're going to create all those things in there. Let me just get them done. I've got a closed lost, and we're going to go back to types, go to leads. We're going to edit the columns. There we go. We'll click that button. I'm going to add a column, and this time it's going to be special. I'm going to type in status, and the data type will be reference, and now I'm going to choose lead status. And what I've done there is I've linked those two types together. So if I go into my lead here, and I've got my new lead I created before, If I click on that, that brings the item edit page. I can go into it and you see now I have a status drop down and I can choose any of those statuses. Save. So I've created a lead. I've set up its status. So kind of easy. There it is. In here, I can edit it, as you've just seen. I can run workflows, and we'll show you that in a minute. I can see any tasks associated with this lead, obviously none, but I can also see the history of how it's changed over time. And we keep the history of all of our items. So it's a really easy way. Create leads, manage the history, etc., etc. Now let's go and create a workflow. Now, workflows are like little instructions for the system on what we want it to do. So I'm going to create a workflow. I'm going to hit the little cog and I'm just going to give it a name. If you don't give it a name, it's fine. It will call it untitled. But trust me, when you have a few, it's a lot easier to give it a name right in the beginning. And the more you type into display name and description, the easier your life will be. Workflows are made up of activities, little chunks of operation, and we have a whole bunch you can choose. But I'm going to show you some which are really useful. This first one is called an object instance trigger. And if you remember when I showed you the lead editor, we had a workflows tab. If I create one of these for a lead type, it will appear in that workflows tab of every one of the leads. So a really easy way to start your workflows. The next thing I'm going to go and do is I'm going to go and have a look at setting up a variable. And I want that lead object that we clicked on to be in a variable. And the way I do that is I give it a variable name, and it's just storing this data in a way I can use it later. And don't be scared, I'm doing a little bit of JavaScript. And the reason is because it gives me this IntelliSense. As I'm typing things, it gives me the answer. So I'm looking for an activities, it's called follow up the lead, and I'm getting data from it. Now, if I publish that, I can now go back into my types, which I'll do right now. Back into my lead, which I created before, click on the lead, go to workflows, and now I have this button I can click. If I click the little play button, then that workflow will have run. It would have read which lead I've got, and it will put it into a variable. Let's have a look. Here's the instance of that workflow that ran. If I click on that and the little chevrons at the top, I can see variables, and I can see in there it's actually got that entire lead object, that this lead is put into the variable, this lead, and I've got all the data. I can manipulate that later, and we'll do that in a more advanced video. What I am going to do though is I'm going to create a task, and what I want to do with this workflow is I want to tell my team to follow up this lead. So just by going to the lead, clicking a button, I can create a task for my team to follow up. So I'll give it a title. So please follow up the lead. Excellent. Now I'm going to give it a description. And this description is in a format called Markdown. Markdown is a way of doing nicely formatted text just using text. And that's really useful for a system like that. So you can Google Markdown and find just the really simple things to do: header 1, header 2, header 3, bullet points, new number points, tables, anything you want. Really quick way to make things happen. So I'm going to say, please follow up the lead with the details below, full name. Now, if I was building one of these properly, I would show you how to ingest the data. We use a tool called Liquid to put stuff from the variable in there. I'm not going to do that here because it's just an overview. Then I've got branches. These create little buttons in the task that my end user could click. So for example, done, could not contact, or closed. And if I save that, you see I've got more little handles at the bottom of that activity where I can choose what things to do in the workflow when they do that action. So there we go. Let's have a look at how that works. So I'm going to go into my lead. I'll click on the lead itself. I'll go to workflows. I'll click follow up the lead, and that should create me a task. Here's the task management system. On the right, I have all the available tasks, and to work on one, I have to click on it or pick it so it's in my list, my to-do list. And you see down there, I've got all the choices I can do. I click done, the task goes away. It's been processed. So that's kind of touching on workflows, types, and tasks working together. But to see those things nicely, I want my users to see that in kind of a nice UI. I can create things called views. So I'm going to create a view here, just by going to admin, views, create view, which has some things about leads in it. There we go. There's my lead status. I didn't want to call it lead status. That's a typo. Let me go and edit that. I just want to call it leads, and it's desperate to make it lead status. So there we go. I'll hit save, and that will update everywhere, as you see. And if I click on that, I've got that one lead in the format I've chosen, and you can filter and sort and do all sorts of things there. So that's views. We can see a list of all the tasks in the system. We can see what's been happened. This one's complete because we chose done. We can import data from CSVs into our types, and this is a really easy import wizard. There's a full university to help you understand how to use workflows and make it work. And the system self-documents. Clicking Documenter in Admin shows you everything that's gone in the system. Your data dictionary, your workflows, everything's in this document that you can then export. We have our privacy policy, which you can read, some settings, plugins which extend the capabilities of workflows. You can download those from our website, and solutions allow you to export your configuration, all your types and workflows, etc., and re-import them into another system. Finally, you've got your account details. So that's an overview of World of Workflows. That's how it works, that's how it comes together, and that's how we create types and workflows and tasks and work through them. Obviously, there's a lot more detail, but hopefully this will give you enough to start playing with the application and start making some things happen. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you have a fantastic day.